Warning, spoilers ahead. Today, I'm going to recap a Korean horror movie released in 2014, called Morning Grave. The film is about a high school boy who can see ghosts. He transfers to a school in the countryside and befriends a ghost while trying to figure out the mystery of another vengeful spirit. What will he uncover? Let's find out together. The movie opens with our main protagonist, In-soo, calling her mother while riding a train. He tells her that the school he's now attending is better than in the United States and that he hasn't seen them anymore. After the call, suddenly, the talisman he's been holding starts spinning, and he sees a scary figure standing next to a lady. Apparently, In-soo can see ghosts. Suddenly, a few guys from his school ambush In-soo. They bully him because they think he's lying about being able to see ghosts. In-soo goes along with it and says it is indeed a lie so that they leave him alone. In-soo wishes that it's a lie, as the ghost he keeps seeing is very scary. He walks back to his room, constantly holding the talisman. He's about to drink when a spirit suddenly shows up and asks him to help avenge her. In-soo manages to lead the police to find the ghost's grave. He calls his uncle, Seon, to say that he will live with him in the countryside. In-soo says he's just lonely, but Seon mentions that more ghosts will come to bother them if they live together, as he can also see ghosts like In-soo. In-soo complains about the ghosts always bothering him, but Seon says it's because he keeps granting them wishes. Either way, In-soo has decided to move, as his uncle lives in his parents' house anyway. He asks about the family of a girl named Young, who was apparently in an incident when he was younger there, but Seon doesn't know. On the bus to the house, In-soo sees a pretty girl in uniform, and she meets his gaze. He arrives at the house, and Seon checks if there's any ghost following him. In-soo comments about the number of talismans set up in the place. The two talk about how Seon has agoraphobia after being possessed by a ghost. We find out that the amulet In-soo has is an heirloom from his great-grandfather. The next day, In-soo goes to his new school and is seated next to a delinquent group. A girl, Ji, switches seats to be next to him and flirts with him, but he doesn't respond. Later that day, he sees a ghost putting a bloody handprint on the class window. He talks about it with Seon, and he says that means the ghost is full of grudge. In-soo goes to a field the following day and draws a woman and her dog. Suddenly, the girl he saw from the bus approaches him, complimenting his drawing. She tells him that the woman is blind and that her companion dog died, but she notices that In-soo can see the dog too. In-soo's class delinquents show up and bully him because he's from Seoul. One of them, Hae, is apparently from the same elementary school as In-soo, and knows about the incident with Young. In a flashback, young In-soo explains to a teacher that Young, who has been missing, is right next to him and keeps saying that she can't breathe underwater. The teacher doesn't believe him until suddenly, the floor is filled with water. In the present, Hae warns In-soo to lay low, or he'll spread rumors about him being able to see ghosts. At night, someone is killing a pet dog named Korong and a photo of a girl gets splattered by blood. Apparently, the girl called Seung-hee is the dog's owner, who thinks that her dog is just missing. She hears a loud sound at home and sees a black plastic bag hanging from an ornament. Under it, there is Korong's collar, and when she checks it out, the bag bursts with blood, and she panics. She washes her face and grabs a knife to protect herself, but then decides to call her friend, saying that someone called Se is there before her door slams shut by itself, and she screams. Sometime later in school, Ji is worried that Seung-hee has run away again because she hasn't come home since yesterday. The girl from earlier appears again during lunch break, as she is apparently a ghost. The schoolgirl ghost asks why In-soo ignores her even though he can see her. She says she won't ask for revenge and wants to talk to In-soo because she's bored, so In-soo asks if she was a student there. She says she can't remember much, not even her own name. Suddenly, she feels something is wrong and says to In-soo that it's the mask before leaving. He tries to follow the spiritual energy using his talisman and sees a female ghost hiding in a shed, but he pretends not to see her. Somewhere else, Seung-hee is being tied up and gagged in a house, where the door is being banged repeatedly. That night, Seon shows off a holy sword and dagger while In-soo laments over the incident with Young. He thinks that the perpetrator would have been caught earlier if he had told the truth sooner, but Seon says that it's not his fault as he was also a victim. While weightlifting, Seon sees the ghost that In-soo saw in the shed earlier hiding on their roof. The next day, In-soo tells the blind woman that her dog is still with her, and she feels happy about it. She asks if his girlfriend is also there. Apparently, she can hear the schoolgirl ghost very clearly. She and In-soo chat while walking. He tells her about Young being the first ghost he ever saw and that she told her who killed her, yet he was too scared to say it to anyone. He comes to a small house, Young's parents' house, and the father reassures him that it's not his fault. He then sees a beautiful Young smiling and waving at him before disappearing. The schoolgirl ghost says that she must be waiting for In-soo before leaving the earth. They head back on In-soo's bike, the girl ghost riding on the back. They stop to sit in the snow. Her hands are cold, so In-soo offers to heat them up with his breath. The two start to get closer together. In-soo even draws a picture of them because they can't take a selfie. One night in school, Ji is bullying a guy when In-soo decides to stand up for him. In his house, In-soo is watching the TV about a murder investigation, wondering who the ghost called the mask in school is. While Seon is trying to get the ghost from earlier to talk, she suddenly tells them that the mask's name is Se. Seon asked about Se's grudge, but the spirit doesn't want to answer. At school, a student named Kita takes his girlfriend, Na-ra's phone from the teacher's room, and then they go to an empty classroom to flirt. She leaves for the restroom, and Kita lays down on a desk before he gets hit by someone. Na-ra hears knocking sounds in the restroom and thinks it's her boyfriend. She goes out and hears someone breathing and checks the stalls before seeing Soon-hee's ghost. She runs away and looks for Kita, before seeing his corpse slammed on a door. She calls Ji to say that Soon-hee's spirit has a mask on like Se, but the voice says that it's Se, and Na-ra gets attacked. In school the next day, the teachers are asking Ji and Hae about their friend's disappearance. They say they don't know anything, and Ji thinks about Na-ra's call from last night. She hears In-soo asking someone if they know a student named Se, and apparently, she died a while ago. In-soo asked for her picture, but Ji asks what he wants to do with it before calling Se a bitch. Later, when In-soo is skipping rocks with the schoolgirl ghost, a classmate texts him Se's picture. Apparently, the schoolgirl ghost is Se, but the vengeful Se wearing a mask is different from her. He asked about her death to the schoolgirl ghost, and she says everyone knows why she died and tells him why. In-soo goes to beat up Hae, saying that he and his gang killed Se, and that's why she's taking revenge. Hae beats him up, but Ji feels like In-soo is right as their friends would not ignore them for this long. Instead of a ghost, she thinks it's Se's father who's doing the revenge, so they head to his house, but Ji texts In-soo to ask for backup. In-soo is talking to Seon about why there can be two ghosts from one person, and Seon says that the spirit could have split its personality when she died because of the trauma she faced. When In-soo gets the text from Ji, Seon gives him the spiritual dagger and tells him to be careful before he leaves. In Se's house, the couple explores the house, and a door starts banging repeatedly. They try to leave, but the exit won't open, and instead, the door that was banging is now open. Beyond it, they see Se's ghost, and Ji screams. In-soo, who just arrived, hears the scream and tries to find the couple. Meanwhile, in the house, Hae gets hit by Se's father, who is human. He keeps getting hit until he dies in front of Ji, and the next target is her. She begs for forgiveness from Se but gets hit either way. In-soo sees Se's father coming out, so he goes inside the house and sees the corpse of Hae and Ji. He then sees Se's preserved body in a wardrobe. In a flashback, Ji and her gang are bullying their classmate, until she gets reported by someone to the school. She tries to find out who reported her, and it turns out to be Se, so they abuse her for it, cutting her hair and making her wear a mask at all times. The abuse goes on for a long time, yet nobody in the class would help her because they don't care or are too scared of Ji's gang, even the teachers don't care. Finally, Se can't endure it and decides to end it all. Back in the present, In-soo also finds a notebook in Se's room, and it turns out that it was his when they used to draw together as kids. He then finds a list of people that Se wants revenge on, and one more name is uncrossed, which is the teacher's name. He rushes to the school while calling Seon to perform an exorcism in Se's house. At school, the teacher who is on the computer suddenly sees Se on her screen. In-soo gets a text from her to come to the library as soon as possible, where other kids are gathered because they got the same text. In-soo tells them to get out of there, but it's too late, as the light is suddenly turned off. A student sees the teacher pouring gasoline all around the library floor before throwing it towards the students. Se's vengeful ghost, the mask, appears and says the students are worse than the bullies for doing nothing to help her. She turns on a lighter and drops it, but it is caught by the other ghost, the schoolgirl. The two debate whether to punish the students or not, the mask saying that the schoolgirl is weak and casts her away. The mask returns to her revenge, wanting the students to feel the same pain and fright as she did. She possesses the teacher and wrecks the library until one student tackles the teacher, unconscious her. Insu tries to find another student that the mask possesses, and it turns out to be the girl she tried to help back then. She turns on the lighter again. Meanwhile, in Sei's house, Sion performs an exorcism to Sei's body using the holy sword but struggles to stab her with it. The dagger that Insu carries starts to light up as it is connected to the sword, and Insu knows that the exorcism has begun. He shows his notebook that he found in Sei's room, and we see a flashback of them as kids who like each other. Insu apologizes to the mask, who has now turned back into Se, for not noticing who she was earlier. She gives Insu the lighter, but the mask returns, holding his hand to drop the lighter. Sion manages to perform the exorcism and shouts for Insu to complete the ritual. Insu grabs the dagger and stabs the mask, making her turn back into Se. She says goodbye to Insu, before disappearing for good. The whole class goes to Sei's grave to pray for her the next day. 5 years later, Insu is now an adult and has become a trainee teacher in his high school. When he introduces himself, he sees a ghost sitting at a desk at the back of the class. The movie ends with the spirit approaching Insu. Not standing up against bullying is also part of the problem. Se needed help so bad but no one even noticed. She took revenge as a ghost because she did not get any help from her classmates and teachers. Do you think the bullies deserve it? Let us know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you next time.